Hello. Welcome to Focus on the Mayor. I'm Phil Hamill, the moderator. I understand that this is the first program that we're bringing to you in living color. I hope you enjoy it. This program, while it's taped for later broadcast, is completely spontaneous and unrehearsed. The mayor has no prior knowledge of any of the questions to be asked. I'd like to start out by introducing the mayor, who's sitting directly across from me, Mayor Rocco J. Vambacco. The reporters today are representing the Wallingford Post, Record Journal, and radio station WMMW. And they are, from my left, Sue Dvorak-Levy from the Wallingford Post. To my right, Doug Quat from the Record Journal. And to my far right, Ken Nessing from WMMW. And Sue, you have the honor today. Why don't you start with the first question?
Thank you, Phil. Mr. Mayor, there have been recent published reports pertaining to the sale of the municipal building, and I understand that John Wooding, Richard Kaplan have been two of the principal characters involved with negotiating possible purchase. Would you care to address that and give us an update as to what's happening there?
I think it's still in the discussion stage. So they are talking about the purchase of the town property. As you know, Mr. Wooding went out of the retail lumber business, so he does have a very deep interest in developing the piece of property there, and as it stands right now, it's just in a talking stage. That's all it is, and they're getting their plans together and whatnot. But you know, it all depends on whether or not the town moves out of the building, the present town hall building. And if we stay there, then I don't think his plans could come about.
Could I just follow up with
Sure,
your
go ahead.
response? What is going to happen with the Robert Early School, which is still vacant?
Well, as you know, I put it up before the town council 3 times for a refurbishing to put the entire employees of the town up there, with the exception of water and sewer division. I always said from day one that it would be easier for the townspeople to go to one building rather than to go to 3 or 4 different areas to do any business with the town. But so far the council hasn't seen fit to go along with my recommendations to refurbish that building into a town hall. You know, I've spoken to a couple of people on different occasions, and maybe you know, I'm looking into the areas of whether or not they're possibly under that federal law that someone would buy the building from us and then we rent it back from them after 20 years. The only catch is that they changed that law where you used to be able to buy it for $1 after a 20-year period. Now you have to buy it back at fair market value from whoever refurbishes the building and rents it back to you. So it caused a little bit of problem, and we are having a little difficulty in getting someone who's really interested in doing it that way. I think the real hang-up would be the final fair market value purchase after you've paid for the monthly rents on it.
Thank you.
Doug?
Mr. Mayor, in your 1983-1984 budget, under the contingency account for non-wages, you have listed a figure of $549,779. Last year, the figure was only $171,130. Can you explain why there's been such a large increase and what the money is planned to be used for?
All that money there is supposed to be for contracts that will be negotiated during this coming year. As it stands right now, we have to put the money aside for what we feel would be the amounts that the contracts would come in at. Last year, the contracts were all funded, so they were in the regular line item. Now, that, if you notice in the personnel section of the budget book, it says negotiations, where the employees are supposed to be getting their increase. So that money's all been thrown into one account, and that's why there's such a higher amount in there than it was last year, because of the negotiated contracts we have coming up.
Meaning the police department, which is carryover from
Police,
last year.
and there's a few others too.
Ken?
Mr. Mayor, some members of the Board of Education say that with your proposed education cut, they might have to close a school. Do you agree with that position?
Ken, I've always maintained that I am not on the Board of Education. If the school has to be closed, it has to be a determination of the Board of Education. It's up to them and them alone to come up with the closing of the schools. As I understand it, the superintendent that just retired said there were supposed to be some schools closed, and the Board of Education failed to go along with its recommendation. I, as the mayor, cannot order, authorize, or whatever you want to call it, tell them to close the school, and I never intend to do that. It's up to the Board of Education, because they ran for that position, and it's up to them to do the best they can with the education system. As far as school closing, that has to be left to the discretion of the Board of Education, and the Board of Education alone. The council cannot even tell them to close schools. Neither can I. The only thing we can give them is a bottom line figure, and that's what we've done. We continually do that year after year. So, if they want to close a school, that's up to them. If they feel that the cuts mean the closing of a school, that's up to them also. But I in no way infer that they should close the school.
Sue?
To dovetail with Ken's question, do you feel that the Board of Education has enough money in this year's proposed budget to operate the system effectively
The current year or the coming year?
the coming year?
Coming year, I think they have sufficient money to operate the budget, yes. At their last meeting, or a couple meetings ago, they talked about they had a surplus in their account. This year, they were able to come up with monies for the alarm system. They were able to come up with monies for a search team for the superintendent's position, and they were able to come up with monies for the temporary appointments of principals. I mean, they always cry that they don't have enough money to run the system, but yet they're able to come up with different monies when the need arises for their own individual, for the Board of Education's purposes. They always seem to be able to get money out of their accounts. And this is where the townspeople are at a disadvantage. We cannot control their line item accounts much as we'd like to. Yet we demand and expect the PUC, the Water, Sewer, and Electric Division, and all town departments to live with line item control. In the Board of Education, we can't do that. So, I feel with the monies that we have given them, I think they can live with the monies that are given to them. The decline in enrollment every year, you're talking about this year, there are over 300 people, children that are not will be less in enrollment in the school system. And it has been that way since 1970. So, in 1970, the budget was only close to $6 million. Here we are, we're almost $17 million. So, with decline in enrollment, something has to happen. And it's up to them as members of the Board of Education to run an efficient system. And also, the need arises that they have to do some things because of the monies that are, because of the inflation, then it's up to them and them alone to do it. Like I say, if we had line item control, it'd be a different story. Then we could I or the council could say different things to them and make them live within the budget, within the line item account. But they can transfer whatever they want from line item to line item without any approval from the council or the mayor or the state or anyone. They have latitude to spend their money as they see fit.
Doug?
If we can stay with education for a minute, Mr. Mayor, in their budget this year, you've only given the Board of Education a 7.7% increase after you cut out $850,000. But board members have said that in order to fund all these salary increases they've already agreed upon, they're going to need a minimum of 8%. Is this your way of telling the board that they've given the teachers too large of an increase in their recent 3-year contract?
The town has always been giving less of an increase to their employees than the Board of Education, and you can go from secretaries to teachers and you name it. Their contention is that they had to give it to them because they would have had to go on to the Board of Arbitration. I say, if you can't come to an agreement, maybe that would be the way to go. But my cut in the budget doesn't mean that they shouldn't have given them the raise they should have given. It's just that I feel that the monies that I have given is enough for them to run the school system.
Ken?
At a recent town council meeting, some members of the council placed the blame on the Planning and Zoning Commission for not fully investigating water runoff problems on potential building sites. It's causing a problem for, water floods in the town. You suggested the council start a inland wetlands commission. Do you think that would help solve the problem?
It could solve some of the problems, but the problems that are there have been over the years because of the way the approvals were given, and also we have to understand that there has been a general increase in development throughout the Quinnipiac Valley, wherever the river stream runs through. And Wallingford's no different, but after many years of discussions with the planning and zoning on their approvals of sites and whatnot, that I have finally convinced them that any development that comes before them, and that they should have a zero increase runoff from that development, meaning, you know, if you're getting 100 gallons an hour off of that area, that if you develop it from woodland to, you name it, shopping plazas or housing or industrial, that the same amount of water would run off. And they have finally have agreed to that, and this is why they have are putting the retention basins and measures to have a zero increase runoff. I think the problems are from way back over the years, which we cannot control now. Those problems cannot be controlled, and if you start correcting problems upstream, you're going to have problems downstream. So you have to start at the mouth of the river or the stream and work backwards in order to eliminate the problem, because you may clear one area and you'll cause another problem further downstream. So the water study would have been an ideal thing to happen. We could have found our problems and worked on it at that basis, but I guess the council felt the cost was too high. So we're going to have to go as a catch-as-catch-can basis on this, and it's unfortunate, but you know, what area do you pick to do? I've been through this so many times. I've been out at 3 in the morning so many times checking the different areas of where the problems are, and it has to start down at the mouth and work back, the mouth of the stream or the river, as I said, and work back upstream. I think the problems, the flooding problems now have been taken care of. The Planning Commission is really concerned about the problems now. They are working with us in that area to see that the increased runoff going into the streams is not like it used to be years ago. They are maintaining a zero increase runoff.
I think that type of study would be a nice thing to have, you know, sometime in the future.
I think you need to study. There's no question about it. Otherwise, you don't know where your problem areas are. You'll have a washout, so you put a bigger culvert in the washout. Then what happens after that? The water runs through the culvert faster, but downstream further, it's still narrow, and then you create a flooding problem, or you create erosion from the banks or siltation where it starts to build up and water runs over the banks. You have to have a study so you can work on it from that point.
Sue.
Following up, there has been a recent public request followed up by Councilman Andrew Mezzi for an investigation of some of the actions of a planning and zoning commissioner, George Cook. I think that has occurred in the past as well. There have been cries for Mr. Cook's ouster. I don't know whether that's attributable to politics at this time, and that's politics we won't get into today. However, do you think there are problems with the zoning commission as well as the ZBA? I know you were having those folks meet to try and iron out some communication. What's your view on that?
Yes, for over the years, they've had some problems between each other. Naturally, they're human beings in two different boards, and each board feels that one board is trying to take away from the other board, which I think is wrong. They have met on occasions. The League of Women Voters had him up and had a speaker speak to him on the aspects of zoning and variances. Some of the times, I think the Zoning Board of Appeals speaks with their heart more than they do with the, with probably the laws of as they relate to zoning. There has been some kind of a little bitterness between each other because of some of the actions that have been taken. I think you're going to see that slowly resolve, though, as the years go by. I think that people are beginning to recognize that. As far as the investigation of Mr. Cook by the town council, the only thing they can investigate is his actions as a planning and zoning commissioner. I don't know whether or not they have the right to go in and investigate what he has done. I think if he's done anything wrong, it would be similar to any other applicant that went before the board. I received a letter from a copy of the letter from Mr. Kovash 3 days after it appeared in the press. Immediately he sent the letter to John Ratcho, the planning and zoning chairman, and asked him what he could find out about it, and he in turn spoke to me and felt that something had to be done immediately. We turned it over to the Board of Ethics, and the Board of Ethics said it didn't come under their purview, that it was more or less a case of law, whether anyone had broken the law, so we immediately turned it over to our assistant town attorney, Adam Manzares, who's been working on this, and he's still working on it. I spoke to him yesterday on to see if he had arrived at a decision yet, and he had not come to a decision. So I don't believe that this investigation, in my opinion, the council can, by 5 votes, do anything they please. With 3 votes, rather, I say they can investigate anything they want. it's unfortunate that, the people jump to conclusions before they get all the facts, and I feel that in this instance that we are following the proper procedure, and if there has been anything illegally done or against the rules of the town as far as construction or zoning or whatever, change of use or whatever the case may be, that something will be done about it in the manner that's prescribed by law.
Just to follow up with that thought, do you feel the ZBA, Planning and Zoning Commission, should ever become elected bodies? I think that was addressed under charter revision in the past.
That's been tossed around every time they have a charter revision commission, and it's, I guess the consensus has always been that they should be the way they are, appointed by the town council. I don't know whether it's because the council doesn't want to give up their right for appointments, or they feel that it's better if they appoint rather than elected, but I think it would, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many of the individuals, that the ones that are appointed will be the same ones running for the boards.
But
So,
if they're elected, in effect, I mean, they can pretty much be more autonomous and responsive to the people who have elected them. than
it's
what-
true, and I think they are. I think they're responsible good people. But like I said, the Charter Revision Commission that we've had have always left them as appointees of the council.
Mr. Mayor, the town council seems to have reluctantly agreed to close its investigation into the 1980 revaluation. Are you satisfied with the revaluation and the results of the council's investigation into the revaluation?
Yes, because I have talked to other mayors in other towns that have had the revaluation, and they have had the same problem that the town of Wallingford has had. And, there have been some extenuating cases where people's reval has jumped up to maybe 4 or 5 times the, but that's because of errors that were originally done previously, and so way back in 1970 revaluation, it's because of those errors back then. And anyone that had built a house right after the 1970 reval is naturally going to find errors jump up quite a bit, and that's what everyone was disturbed about. But we went up 2.5 times as much, and same thing happened in North Haven, Southington, and some areas it went up 3 times as much. We didn't have the shift like other towns had, where we shifted all the monies onto the taxpayers, the homeowners, I should say. We sort of balanced out like it was previous to our reval. Some towns, the homeowner had to pick up a lot of the increase in tax, but in Wallingford it didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way in North Haven, and I don't believe it happened that way in Southington. But the general increase was the same throughout the state, whether it be Wallingford or you name it, any town. It was roughly around 2.5 times as great as it was in 1970, and that seemed to be the norm. And like I said, there were exceptional cases, and these cases were taken care of. And I noticed this year that we had some cases go before the Board of Tax Review, and those cases have all been resolved. And there was a case in point where there was a taxpayer who made $1 million error, and that was done by themselves. These things are correctable. But I don't feel that, based on the entire evaluation, I don't think that that I'm unhappy with the way it came out.
If I can, excuse me, if I can follow up for a second.
Sure.
We know there have been a lot of problems. The council has held. They called Cole and Trumbull in front of the council. The Board of Tax Review has come in front of the council, and the council still owes Cole and Trumbull almost $23,000. Although it looks like they're eventually going to pay it. Do you have any suggestions to make? There's going to be another revaluation, obviously, in about 6 or 7 years. Do you have any suggestions to make to the town council on what they might want to look for in setting up for the next revaluation?
The next revaluation will be in 1990. It's every 10 years, and that's mandated by state law. And this revaluation company was picked by the council and the assessor because when the assessor had the different companies, when it went out to bid, the different companies, he made the suggestion to the town council that they hire the outfit that we had, and they had in their possession the records of the company for at least 2 weeks way back then, and they could have really examined it in detail back then if they wanted to. It seems that it's an after-the-fact case because of some of the problems that it had, and as you know, I think that the council felt that they should do it, I have no problem with that investigation that he thought, but I think they have really not found anything that was a problem with the revaluation itself that was that great a problem. But if they so felt that that company wasn't or shouldn't have been appointed, they shouldn't have really authorized the tax assessor to hire that company, because way back when they had the power to either deny or approve, and they approved the hiring of this company.
Ken?
What is the latest on the purchase of the Armory? I know you're going to be going to a public hearing very soon to spend the money, but isn't the purchase of the municipal building hinged in some way on seeing what the town does if it goes through with the Armory?
No,
Purchase?
what's happening is that the state has not agreed to the price we offered them at $200,000. So coming up on the next agenda, a week from Tuesday, I put on a title for set a public hearing for $2.1 million for the acquisition and refurbishment of the Armory. And the following week, 2 weeks after that, they will have a public hearing on the sale of the notes and the bonds. And then we'll authorize the sale. If they authorize everything and everything goes through, then we'll sell the bonds, and 21 days after that we can start with the purchase of the property. In fact, we will purchase the property and then go forth with the refurbishment of the Armory. But as far as the Robert Early and the town hall itself hinging on that, I don't think it hinges on that at all. Like I said, the council refused 3 times to go along with my recommendation, so there it stands.
Sue?
Carrying through on that thought, because it's been a popular one that has cropped up every so often, we had conducted a survey, a public opinion survey. It was a random survey around December, and one idea which came up very frequently was the possibility of constructing a mall in the downtown area, whether it would be down along the center of town, or again, Mr. Wooding and Mr. Kaplan seem to be talking about a mall uptown, hinging on acquisition of a municipal building. Do you think that's a reality or feasibility at all?
You know, you talk about the mall downtown, you might as well go back 20, 25 years when everybody was talking about it then. They talked about the mall coming up the back of the Center Street, opening up. At that time, it wouldn't work because, or thoughts were that it couldn't possibly work because of the Holy Trinity School there, and then you had the buildings uptown here at the center. The Main Street buildings, they talked about that 25 years ago, they talked about it 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and they're talking about it today, and I think they'll be talking about it another 10 years from now. I think Mr. Wooding and Mr. Kaplan, I think, are really dedicated people, and I think they are very much interested in developing this mall. I think what they have in mind is that what they would like to do from looking at drawings and discussions of people way back, a few years back, they would have the lower floor, the main floor would be with retail shops and whatnot, and then they would have apartments over that. And I don't think they're talking about offices in that, they're talking about apartments or condos or whatever to be above that. I think that's a real good idea. I think it's a workable one. I think the only way it's going to be done is it's going to be done with private monies. You know, but it all, as Mr. Wooding has said, it all hinges on him being able to buy the entire corner, him and Mr. Kaplan. I think the options are there if they wanted to buy him, but if we stay there as a town hall, I don't think you're going to see that come about.
As long as we're talking about town buildings, one of the most newsworthy buildings of late has been the Tabor House, situated right next to the library here. What's your position on the disposition of the Tabor House? Would you like to see the town develop that building, or would you prefer to see it torn down?
Doug, I think that the committee that's appointed has to come up with that, the answer to that. You know, they've got a 10-member committee, and they've been working on it for quite some time. And I think, you know, when you appoint committees, the committees have to come up with the recommendations, and normally you try to follow the committee's recommendation. I have no thoughts either way on it. I do know that if we keep it, it's going to cost a great deal of money, and I don't know where they're going to get the money to refurbish that house and bring it back to what it was years ago. There's some hodgepodge in effect to that house where they, you know, added different portions of the original structure. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to tear those all out and just refurbish the house as it was originally. You're talking about the, you know, Mr. Costello and Mr. Deek were up there, and they didn't think it was feasible, although someone who was really interested in keeping it brought a construction engineer in, and naturally he leaned towards the person who wants to keep it, I would assume. You know, you got your pros and cons on it, and I think it's up to the committee to come up to that. But they can't do anything unless the Tabors or their heirs say that it can, what should or shouldn't be done with that. I think that's locked in with them. And then the committee has to agree with the town council or vice versa on what is going to be done. One cannot do it without the other.
Ken?
Some people, when you talk mall, they get scared because they look and see what happened to Meriden. They built the mall on the north side of town, and some people say, you know, it sucked the business right out of the center of town. What are you going to say to those people who might present that argument to you if this mall idea
Yeah, but this
gets
mall,
more ground?
Yeah, but Ken, this mall would be in the center of town, not in the outskirts. And I think that the idea is to draw these people downtown. If you draw people downtown going past other places of business, they're going to pick up some business also. It's been proven that the mall is not the center. But if it's in the outskirts, you drive out, you go there, and you have no thoughts of driving down in the center of town. But when you have to come into the center of town, you'll find that it's a draw, and it enhances the other businesses in town. You have, you know, people go to the mall, hit the lawyers, doctors, all the services that go along with the running of the town. Plus, I think the retail establishments would pick up. I don't think anybody would complain about that.
Do you agree with the with the feeling of some people on the zoning board where they're trying to allow people again to live over stores downtown?
Wait, yes, I think that's something that could be agreed on. I think as long as they leave the downstairs portion, you know, the ground floor for businesses, I don't see any problem with that. I think that would generate, you know, up in Hartford, or someone in the town, there was a piece of property that they were going to use for a commuter, and they went around, they turned around, and they put some high-rise apartments in for the elderly, and it did fantastic. It's going to do fantastic for the merchants in that area.
Okay, that concludes today's Focus on the Mayor program. We'd like to thank the press representatives who are here with us today. Sue Dvorak-Levy, who is editor of the Wallingford Post, Doug Quat from the Record Journal, and Ken Nessing from radio station WMMW. We'd like to thank also the Wallingford Public Library for the fine facilities and for producing the program for us. And we'd like to thank you for being with us. We hope you'll join us again next time. And if you watch for your messages on, I think it's still Town Access Channel B, you'll see when the next program will be on. Thank you again. Bye now. Hello, welcome to Focus on the Mayor. I'm Phil Hamill, your moderator. This program, while it's taped for later broadcast, is completely spontaneous and unrehearsed. The Mayor has no prior knowledge of any of the questions to be asked. The reporters here today are from the Wallingford Post, Record Journal, and radio station WMMW. First, I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Wallingford, Rocco J. Vambacco, sitting across from me. On my left, Sue Dvorak-Levy, she is editor of the Wallingford Post. And to my immediate right, Zena Gregory of WMMW. And to my far right, Doug Quat, the Record Journal. And Doug, you have the honor today.
Thanks, Phil. Mr. Mayor, It's been reported that funding for the sewage treatment plant could fall short in the area of about $10 million. Now, if that is the case, can Wallingford afford to pay another $10 million for the sewage treatment plant, and how would you raise the money?
Well, right now, before the state legislature, there is a bill on a 45-55 split between the town and state and/or federal. There's an amendment for advanced waste treatment plants that wants to give to the towns that have that are under that order for advanced waste treatment plants to increase it to 75% state and federal and 25% from the towns. I propose, in fact, I have drafted a letter showing the different costs that would be attributed to the taxpayers if the 45-55 plan went into effect, or if the 75-25 plan went into effect. And this is what I propose to send to the Finance Committee up in Hartford to explain it to them. And I've spoken to several mayors that have the same problem I have who are against the 45-55. And we can't say right at the present time how we're going to, how much is going to be funded to the towns, by the towns themselves, until the legislature makes a final decision on this. And then comes the problem of the funding requirements for the sewer plant. But we are under orders to clean up the water, and we have to do it. There's no question about it. But as I said, it's too soon to determine where the money is going to come from or how it's going to come from until we find out what the final decision is up in Hartford.
If the 55-45 bill would change to 75% for the city, 75% for the state and 25% for the cities and towns, how much would that mean for Wallingford then, the 25% funding?
25%, I think that rolls into around $5 to $7 million. We have a figure based on the construction of 1983, I think it was, and then we have another one that's based on 85, and probably another one based on 87, and all those three figures are taking into consideration inflationary costs. There's no question many of the towns are going to have some problems with their funding, but we have to address that problem when the problem is presented.
Zena?
Mr. Mayor, while we're talking about water, what is the current situation with the water and septic problems at Henry's Trailer Park?
I think where it stands right now is that the state is getting involved in it on the Henry's Trailer Park, and because of the pollution from the septic system at Henry's Trailer Park, the state is going to give them a 30-day order that they have 30 days to come up with a solution to the problem, or they will close down the water system. And I think that and the septic park, depends on what the state really comes up with. But I do know for a fact that there is an order coming through, and it's going to give them 30 days to do something about it. We have, the town of Wallingford has put a water tank down there, which is filled just as soon as it becomes empty. We put it there last Friday so they can get pure water, clean water from our own system, and the residents go to that tank and get their water. But, and we are continually filling it whenever the need arises. So it's a temporary relief situation to the people, but I think the problem should be that water's going into those trailers should be good, clean water.
Thank you.
Sue?
As long as we're dealing with mobile homes, Mr. Mayor, can I ask you, what is the status of the Gopian Trailer Park situation? There are several homes or parks in Wallingford that do have to be relocated. Henry's, I think, might be one to be looked at in addition. Is there an update on that?
No, I think that, there's going to be 4 alternatives proposed at a town, which the Corps of Engineers is examining further. They're going deeper into it to see which one is the most viable alternative to the people. Probably one of them, there's considerations of moving them, there's considerations of lifting a trailer, consideration filling. There are many considerations, but they have to be cost effective as far as the Corps of Engineers is concerned, for them to put the monies in to take care of the park, moving the people out or whatever the case may be. And this is what's going on right now. We've had a preliminary discussion with them, but there has been no final decision made as of yet. They are exploring further avenues about this, and they are looking to other alternatives. And I think we should hear from them, within a 2 or 3 month period with a final decision. It's going to take that long to do it. The economics, the cost versus what the loss is, has a lot to do as far as the Corps funding is concerned. And they're trying to weigh heavily in the town's favor, but it has to be proven on paper with the facts and figures through the economics of it and what course they're going to take as far as Goping's concerned. But they are really working on it, and we're really behind it, and we're pushing. We're even going to get our state reps involved, and our United States reps involved in the area to see what can be done along this area whenever a decision has been made on which avenue to follow.
What's your view on relocation? Should the town get involved and spearhead that?
The town does not, we have other trailer camps in Wallingford that have similar problems. That, we had one over there off of Penn Highway near the Industrial Road. That person wanted close to $110,000 worth of town funds to take care of that park. And we all consider that as a private development, just like we do Henry's Trailer Park as a private developer, and we consider Goping's a private developer. But the difference between all of them is that Goping's in a floodplain area. No matter what we do, they're still in a floodplain area, and I think the answer should be that somewhere, somehow, there should be some type of relocation of those trailers. Where, when, how, that's another question.
Doug. Mr. Mayor, in your budget, which the town council has in its hands right now and is currently tearing apart, you have proposed a tax increase of only $500,000. Now, in the coming years, the town is going to have to find some way to fund several major capital improvement projects, such as a water filtration plant and a sewage treatment plant. My question is, in light of these expenses, which will cost the town several $1 million, is this year's small tax increase realistic?
Of course it's realistic. It's based on what's asked right now versus the monies that are available coming in and based on the state and federal economy. I've always maintained that if the town can continue the development the way they have been in the past, where the town has had an increase right after revaluation of $20 million. Normally, towns do not have that type of an increase, but they had a $20 million addition in the grand list, which gives us some extra monies right after revaluation, the year after revaluation. So there's been a continual development in Wallingford. There's been a continual interest in Wallingford, and if my projections are all predicated on the fact that Wallingford is going to grow, and when Wallingford grows, the new monies will be coming in to offset these increased costs, and that's how we approach it. You have to have more money coming in order to take care of these problems that arise. Otherwise, if we didn't have the industrial and commercial and real estate development that Wallingford has, where would the additional income have come from to offset these expenses that have gone up because of inflation? You'll find that many of the towns have had to add 4, 5, and 6 mills to their grand list because of, to the taxpayers, because there was no increase in the grand list. And that's what I'm projecting. Everything is that the town will continue to grow, and by growing, we will have additional monies to fund these additional costs that come in. And I keep saying to everyone, if we don't get new and newer development in the town of Wallingford, the taxpayer is ultimately going to be charged with a tax rate that's going to be exorbitant and cannot afford. It's not affordable to them. So we have to have development in town to offset our expenses.
Zena.
Mr. Mayor, are you pleased that the town council said the $850,000 cut to the Board of Ed is okay?
Yes, I'm quite pleased with that. I think that I'm sure in looking at the budget and looking at the figures of the Board of Education and looking at the pupil decrease that has continued to happen since 1970, that I think they can live within their budget, the monies that were given to them. Realistically, I think that as far as I can see, that they'll be able to take care of everything. This year, current year, they never expected the superintendent to resign, and that was around $43,000 of the Board of Education money. They put monies in for a search team, which never was expected, around $8,000 to $10,000. They've given $4,000 to the acting superintendents. This is all extra money, and they put in $15,000 for their alarm system, which was not anticipated. This was all money that everyone figured that last year's budget that would go towards educating the children. But here they are. These funds were found somehow. Don't ask me how. But like everyone says, there's fat in my budget. I think there's a lot of fat in the Board of Education budget, and I think that they should be realistic. Probably look into the area of being more efficient, consolidation of programs, and whatever the case may be.
Meriden Board of Ed recently approved computer programming to be implemented in grades K through 8. Would something like this be practical for Wallingford in light of this year's budget?
Yes, I think that they have enough funds that they can implement these type of programs. They probably can look at some other programs which are not as beneficial to the children and implement the computer-type programs. Like I've continually said, I did not run for the Board of Education. The Board of Education has that responsibility. They have to answer to the public. I've repeatedly stated if they gave us permission to give them a line-item budget and control their budget, I think you'd see a different situation. But as far as the town's concerned, whether myself or the town council, the only thing we can say is, here's the bottom line, do what you want with it, because the state law says they can do what they want with that bottom line, and we cannot tell them what to do. They can say they're not going to hire new teachers, and they can hire new teachers. They can say they're not going to build ball fields, they can build ball fields. But we can't stop no matter what.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the town council deferred acting on the proposed agreement with the Medway Associates for the development of the Medway Business Park. That was pretty much contingent on the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewing the situation, assessing the remaining capacity of the sewage treatment plant. If the town doesn't really get all of the money that it really needs to develop that plant, what impact will there be on future development in Wallingford?
The town does get state monies you're talking about, and federal monies from... Well, we'll have to pick it up because we're mandated by the state to clean up our sewage system. You know, even though Hartford and many of these others have built new plants, when they have a tremendous amount of rain, they still open their sewer and let the sewage run into the Connecticut River. There are other places that do the same thing because they have antiquated systems. Many of these towns have storm waters running into their sewer system, and it's expensive. It's an awful expense for them to start cleaning out the excess water that's not really sewage, and they have the same problem that we're having right now. We don't have a new plant, but I don't expect that Wallingford will have the same problem that these others have. And speaking to some of the people at the EPA, DEP, they're telling me, you know, that a lot of towns wish they had the problem that Wallingford has, because in their opinion, we don't have that quite of a that big a problem, even though we do have we're not cleaning the water based on their capacity. They want us to clean it to 95%. We're doing around 83 to 85 right now, as I understand it. And I feel that we will have to fund that money somehow. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, what's the status right now with the project over at Community Lake? And approximately how long will it take for the lake to be used again by the people who live in Wallingford?
The project at Community Lake is still as it has always been. We are dredging the lake. We're bringing it down to a 10 to 15 foot depth. There's an average of 10 to 15 feet throughout that area that we've dug. We are saving monies because we have to buy dirt for the landfill to cover it. We have to cover the landfill every night, and this is where we're getting at. And at the same time, we are making the lake which will be usable. You know, if we build a dam, 10 to 20 years from now, you're going to see that go into a swampland. It's predicted to be such if we don't do something about it. Just recently, they talked about the aging lakes in Connecticut. You know, the same thing applies to us here. We spoke to the state on their state-owned properties where they had algae and weeds and everything growing in, but they don't have the funds. You know, Middlefield has the same problem we have. As our North Farms Reservoir is getting to the point where you can almost walk across it. Same thing would have applied to the Community Lake, and as far as I feel the most logical way to go is the way we're doing it right now, is to dredge the lake, get it deep enough, switch to the other side, then build a dam. It's going to take a few years, no question about it, but it will last a lot longer than if we put a dam in there right now, and slowly the algae and the weeds will take over, and pretty soon you've got nothing but swampland.
Mr. Mayor, how do you feel about Councilman Mezzi's move to stop the Armory project by trying to get it to go to referendum vote?
I particularly don't care for his actions whatsoever on that. I think Mr. Mezzi is wrong in what he is doing. You know, he says he talks to the people. He's talking to a certain few people. But as far as I firmly believe that Mr. Mezzi's actions are vindictive, I don't think they are helpful to what the town really needs. A police station belongs in the center of town. the way the building is situated, the way it's built, it's an open building. We don't have to tear any walls down whatsoever. You just go in there. Well, downstairs there might be one wall that has to come down, and it's a temporary partition down the stairs, but the building is structurally sound. We're always talking about keeping the old architect. Well, this is an old building that was built years ago, which has the old type architect to it. It blends itself into the type of thing that would say that it is a police station. It's an enforcement building, and just because Mr. Mezzi doesn't agree with the majority of the council and the majority of the police and the majority of the people, he feels that, you know, he's going to use this avenue to try to defeat the purpose. I think in the long run, I think you're going to find that the people of Wallingford are going to vote for a new police station, regardless of what Mr. Mezzi does with his petition. I'm not faulting him for that he has the right to do it, but he's supposed to look out for the taxpayers of the town, and when he personally initiates a referendum, I fault him for that. I don't think it's right.
Thank you.
Sue.
Did you say people would vote for a new station?
I
or-
said that people would vote for the station that's being proposed.
Okay. The question I have would focus on the Department of Environmental Protection, which is devising a new plan, hoped to be released this summer, with regard to the Connecticut Resource Recovery Authority and the waste-to-energy steam generating plant. What's the status of the town's negotiation with Cyanamid on that project?
Well, you know, to be fair and equitable to both sides of the fence, Cyanamid has to give themselves, has to sort of lock themselves in with the town for a 10 to 20-year period, saying, yes, we will stay in Wallingford, we will buy your steam, and what. But we have Cyanamid has a problem similar, and we also have the problem with Cyanamid because they use their steam on peaks. You know, one day they'll need it way up the top of the peak, and then it'll drop down. And we have a continuous amount of steam that has the same type of flow coming out, same pounds per square inch coming out on a daily basis, and they can't use it that way. Now, we have to somehow devise some means or some method of saying, or doing rather, utilizing the steam in its entirety, because if you just take and have a recovery system and you don't sell the energies out the back end, your tipping fee at the front end is going to be exorbitant. And this is why many times we as a region can't seem to get together and say that yes, we will pay X number of dollars for garbage going in the front end per ton. And everyone we talked to over the years, it seems like we're hearing the same story over and over. We want to lock you in, but we can't tell you a figure. They're trying to relate the Wyndham plant to the plants that we're using now, and that are being proposed now. And they can't do that because the Wyndham plant that was built a few years back, most of it was built with grant monies and monies in at 5%. You can't do that today. I firmly believe that a plant should be built in the town of Wallingford, no question about it. I firmly believe that it should be a private enterprise. I firmly believe that the town should not be involved with the running of the operation, but it should have a say. A committee to say how the operation should be run, but we should not be a party to it in the sense that we should be the operators of it, because if a plant breaks down, we know that the person who's running the plant can repair it a heck of a lot faster than us and would have the mechanics and the means to do it. But Wallingford and the surrounding towns do need a resource recovery, especially in the energy system, to cut down the amount of money it's going to cost the taxpayers for garbage, and I firmly believe that's going to come in the future. It has to come. We're building mounds of garbage, and it's not in our best interest to do so, because in many instances we get a lot of stuff going into the garbage that we don't know, that really is going in, and it could pose some potential hazards later on. It's not that great, I grant you, but I think that we should have some type of resource recovery system in Wallingford.
What has come from the latest meetings with Cyanamid?
We're still negotiating.
Thank you.
Don?
Mr. Mayor, the police department sent 10 men over to Meriden on Saturday to help out in the Ku Klux Klan rally. I'm wondering, did it cost the town any money at all to send these men over there? And if it did cost the town money, how much did it cost, and why did the town of Wallingford have to pick up the bill for something over in Meriden?
Well, we have a municipal aid agreement with all the towns, and we've all agreed, it's a municipal pact, that whenever a town needs help, that they would request it from the police chief. We have the same thing with fire, by the way, and that we would help them. And they figured they needed men. They requested some men from us, Hamden, Cheshire, you name it. They all gave people towards it. We gave them 10 policemen. If we needed the help, they would have given us the 10. We would have gotten them from surrounding towns, and this is some kind of a agreement we have with them. I think that some of the men might have been off the shift, but I know that we brought some men on time and a half, and so you figured what it would cost them on a time and a half basis. I don't have the exact figure, but I don't have any qualms with helping the city of Merton or any town for that matter when they need help, because there have been points in time when we have requested help. Witness the fire we had down at the lumber yard. We had engines from Cheshire, Meriden, you name it. We must have had them from all around us to help us out in that fire, and it didn't cost the town a penny. This is the type of aid that people cannot put dollars on, and I feel that we are obligated to help each other just as towns should help each other on a regional basis. So I don't feel that we did anything out of the ordinary, and I think we should continue along this path and help out each other.
Zena?
Mr. Mayor, what are your feelings about the police union's practice complaint against the town of Wallingford?
You know, I'd like to speak to that, but, you know, we're in negotiations and all that, so I prefer that we not talk about it right now. It would be probably considered bargaining in bad faith if I said anything about it, so I prefer not to answer that right now.
Mr. Mayor, next Wednesday there is an unusual and a special hearing with the Board of Ethics, which may involve the conduct of public officials or town employees. Can you shed any light on that?
Not right now. I can't say a thing about it because it's a hearing. I am going to be a witness to the hearing along with other people. I understand I'm going to be subpoenaed to it or be asked to go. I have been asked in a letter, but I probably will be subpoenaed along with everyone else to make sure that I go. And being as I'm going to be a witness and I have things that have to be said at that meeting that I can at the present time prejudice the case one way or another by speaking about it.
Doug?
Well, as long as we're talking about the Board of Ethics and recent action, the other day the Board of Ethics cleared Planning and Zoning Commissioner George Cook of any type of a conflict of interest, and the Town Council has refused to really make any kind of a decision or really discuss about it under orders from the Town Attorney. Are you perfectly satisfied with what's happened, or do you wish that the Council would now sweep it under the rug, or do you feel that there are certain people who are making this case into an issue, and they're trying to make it into an issue during an election year?
Well, I think you'll find that, number one, it's a political issue. Number two, I take exception with your sweep it under the rug. I don't believe that we've ever tried to sweep anything under the rug. I do feel that George Cook and anyone else that is being torn through the press and the media without any facts or evidence to substantiate it, just by character assassination, degrading the person without listening to the facts. You know, we have Councilman Mezzi the other night said that there was inappropriate actions of the building department and the assessor's office. He doesn't know the procedure. If he had gone and asked, he would have found out what the procedures were. When you take a building permit out in the town of Wallingford, it's sent over to the assessor's office within a 1 to 2 week period, depending. If he gets one, they usually hold, but they usually send them within a 2 week period or on a monthly basis. So he knows what's going on in the town of Wallingford. If someone doesn't come in and apply for a building permit, there's no way anybody's going to know what's going on. Witness the fact that many people that put recreation rooms down in their cellars or build little tool sheds in their backyard. I think that if Mr. Mezzi would just question the people before he starts making these statements, and with this character assassination, I consider Mr. Mezzi almost like a McCarthy back in the olden days, you know. Allegations, assertion, it's alleged, it's inferred, tear a person apart, and then when the facts roll in, there's no evidence to substantiate his claim. I think he's wrong with the way he's gone about it. He's hiding under the banner of waving a flag for the taxpayers, which, in my opinion, he's just waving the flag. I think more people should take into fact what about supposedly when he took the people over at Demi Road to court on that subdivision. If he had let that subdivision
alone, there'd have been only 6 houses with sewer already built, and those houses over there would not be like they are right at the present time, you know. And his payoff of $500 was, I mean, $5,000. I can see someone paying for your attorney fees. Maybe you can't afford that, but put $5,000 in your own pocket. Sort of constitute to me that well, I would consider it almost like a bribe.
Okay, that just about does it for today's Focus on the Mayor. We'd like to thank our reporters today, and our press representatives, I should say. Sue Dvorak-Levy from the Wallingford Post, she's editor for the Post. Doug Quat from the Record Journal. And Zena Gregory from radio station WMFW. I'd like to thank the Wallingford Public Library for the luxurious and very comfortable facilities. And we'd like to thank you for being with us. Invite you to be with us again next time. It should be around the 1st of June. Watch the message wheel on this channel. And until then, goodbye.
Smile, you're going to be on camera.
Hello, welcome to Focus on the Mayor. I'm Phil Hamill, your moderator. This program, while it is pre-recorded for later broadcast, is completely spontaneous and unrehearsed. The Mayor has no prior knowledge of any of the questions to be asked. I'd like to introduce now Wallingford's Mayor, Rocco J. Vambacco, sitting across from me. And the reporters today represent the Record Journal and the Wallingford Post. And they are, to my immediate right, Doug Quat from the Record Journal, and Sue Dvorak-Levy, and she is editor of the Wallingford Post. And Sue, you have the honor today. First question.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Sue.
I think one of the most recent occurrences has to do with the town hall. Councilman Andrew Mezzi has achieved what he wanted, and that is to have a referendum. What happens from here?
Well, he has the proper signatures, I believe, and what is being done right now is they are checking in the town clerk's office to see whether the signatures are valid. That being the case, I think what is going to happen is he proposes it as an item on the town council agenda, and if they approve or disapprove, whatever the case may be, if they sustain their vote, then it goes to a referendum, they put it on the ballot, and within a 30-day period, I believe it is, that it happens, and then the voters have a chance to vote on whether or not the Armory should be used for a police station or not.
Would you be forthcoming with a recommendation if the Armory is disapproved?
Well, naturally, we'll have to come up with another site. Probably will come up with another one, but I don't feel that that the Armory is going to be disapproved. I think that the majority of people that I talked to, some on the signing of the sheets for a referendum, a lot of them were misled in some of the way it was said to them, and some people didn't even know what they were signing. A lot of them just signed to get the people off their backs. So I don't think that you're going to see the opposition come out as strong as you will the people for it.
Doug?
Thank you, Phil. Mr. Mayor, yesterday the town council recommended building a housing project for the elderly behind Simpson School building, even though it's going to mean the relocation of at least one softball field and 1 or 2 practice softball fields. You recommended land behind Hope Hill Road. What's your opinion on the council decision yesterday?
Naturally, the council has the authority to say where the site is going to be. I can only recommend. I still feel that the Hope Hill site was the ideal site. We have a lot of activities going on at the schools. During the summer, they could have watched sit outside and watch the football, baseball games, as Little League games up there. In the wintertime, they could have utilized the schools by going in and watching different programs. They could have gone into the high school to get involved with the adult education if they like. I think that they were out in the open. It was more like a suburbia forum. Where they plan on putting them in, they're going to be, in my opinion, they're going to be blocked in by trees on one side and the school on another, and I don't feel that the site that they picked, in my opinion, was the site that I wanted to see picked. But like I said, they have the control. I think that the town council has repeatedly said that, you're supposed to plan. Well, in the planning process, now they've done away with 3 of the baseball fields that are at Simpson, but they make no provision on where it's going to go. And all you hear is Doolittle and the Satori property. But they have not taken the time to go look at the Doolittle Park to see whether a softball field. We've examined that 3 or 4 times, tried to put a soccer field on, and it won't fit on there. So the most we can do now is if we were going to put a field there, we'd have to go out there and level it off and spend quite a bit of money on it. And they fail to understand that a field cannot be built for $500. The field that the Elbrick Steel people said that they were going to build when they bought the property from the town, they said they'd spend as much as $20,000, and that's what they did, and it's one of the best Little League parks we have. The Satori property is not level as people seem to think it is. We picked the most level spot to put the soccer field that we're going to put up at the Satori property. I don't think there's any areas left up there that are level enough to put Little League fields on, unless we take the fields away from the soccer people again, and then we have problems. Now, I think we've had a wonderful program for the youngsters to play in, and I hate to see these fields being taken away. You talk about, the calls coming into our office on people that want the fields lined ready for games and whatnot, and I find that very distressing that we are losing fields, and then we're going to have to put fields in some other areas of town.
Where would the town council get the money to move these fields and the fencing that surrounds the one softball field over at Simpson?
Well, they were asked last night, and I know we got a clear answer from them. I guess what they're waiting for me to do is appropriate it to them out of funds that have already been set aside for something else, probably.
Sue.
Mr. Mayor, to follow up on that question, I've heard cost estimates of the relocation of that field from $10,000 to $30,000, depending on all the improvements that would have to be made. The Board of Education also had installed lights for night baseball at a particular field. I believe that's at Sheehan High School. And not very long ago, they voted not to start a night baseball program. Seems like there's a great deal of money being expended for recreational needs. Is there a proven need for all of these fields?
Most certainly is. If you ever were in our office or in the office of the recreation director, you'd find out that there is a definite need for these types of fields that we have set aside for Little League and soccer. People fail to. I think the Yalesville Little League has around 450 to 500 children playing in the Yalesville Little League. I think Wallingford has the same thing, and the soccer I think has close to 900 kids playing at the last I knew. I could be wrong on my figures, but the Sheehan School is not lit. It's the Pat Wall Field off of South Elm Street that's lit. Just because they voted against them playing night football, I think maybe you'll see probably a new Board of Education that might come on that might approve the night football games, or baseball games, I should say. We do have lights at Pregman Field, and you'd be surprised how people utilize those fields and the West Side Field over there. West Side Field, they have 3 games a night over there. They start at 5 o'clock and play right till about 10 o'clock, and they have 3 games. So you can see we do have enough of the participants that want to use these fields, enough Little Leaguers, enough of soccer players and football players, you name it, we have enough. And we have approximately 95 adult softball teams in town. So when people tell me that we don't need the fields, I don't think anybody's done any research to see just what is really required to
continue the sports program that we have in Wallingford. And if it wasn't for the type of programs that we have, many of our teams that we have in our high schools and junior high schools would not be winning some of the titles that they have been.
Has anybody bothered to do any research, either to log the phone calls or tally the correspondence to determine if there is a real need?
No, no one has, I don't believe.
Mr. Mayor, as long as we're talking along the lines of recreation, the town's lease with Mr. Edward Berger for leasing of parking land over at Westside Eagle Field expires at the end of the month. I know that that Mr. Berger has made an offer to sell the land to the town, which the town refused. The town made a counteroffer to Mr. Berger, which he refused. Do you know where the negotiations stand right now?
I think that the town council appointed a 3-member committee, and they're supposed to be discussing it with his attorney, Leon Gross, and I think there was only one phone call made to Leon Gross. I spoke to him the other day, day before yesterday. In fact, it was the day before yesterday, and he told me that he had one phone call and he tried to get back on him. He hasn't heard since from these people. I think it's wrong that we don't buy this property. I think we should try to sit down and negotiate with him a better price. He's asking a price that some of the members feel is too much. Well, that being the case, maybe we could sit down and negotiate with them. And we have an alternate thing that we could do, that we could condemn the property if we had to. But there's been a suggestion made, and here again, we're trying to take some recreation area away from the use today, where the council feels that they should go into the Westside Field itself and park inside the field. And I think this is wrong. I think we have these fields planned and programmed for playing, and they should be utilized just for playing, but the parking area should be utilized strictly for parking. I don't think we should take away from one to make provision for something else to happen in there. I think it's wrong. I've repeatedly said that, but it seems that it's fallen on deaf ears. Nobody wants to listen on it.
What will happen if there's no agreement reached between the town and Mr. Berger by June 30th when the lease runs out? Will the town still be able to use the parking over there? Is there an extension available in the lease?
No, there isn't. There's a 60-day clause, I think, in it, notification of 60 days hence that you will cease and desist and not use it. I think we're going to have a tremendous amount of dissatisfied people and outraged over the fact that they'll be parking out in the streets and parking on private property, where the police will be quite busy being notified about removing cars. The steel company doesn't want them parking on their property because they don't want the liability if anyone gets hurt or anything. There is no other alternative. They're talking about letting them park on the electric division property, but you know how it is with people. They don't want to walk. You go to a shopping center, everybody wants to park right by the front door, and the same thing applies when they go to these playing fields. They want to park as close as possible. It remains to be seen whether it's going to work or not. But I think there's going to be some outraged players when they take this parking area away from them.
So,
Recently, Planning and Zoning Commission as well as local merchants met with planning consultant Sam Pine to discuss the town plan of development and revitalization of the Central Business District. One of the major proposals, and it seems to be the catalyst, would be development of a mall or small mall in what is now the municipal block. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any particular feeling or strong recommendation on this particular project?
We've talked about this for a number of years, about making that a sort of a mall effect with some little maybe 3 or 4 story apartment buildings above it. We've always discussed with the owners, Wooding Company and Kaplan Market, feasibility of them purchasing the town hall, and they were interested in purchasing the town hall, and they're interested in buying the other 2 buildings where the electric division collection agency and the data process mechanism is in. And they have repeatedly said that they were very much interested in it, but it's at a stalemate, because if the town council doesn't doesn't want to move out the town hall from its present location to the old Robert Early School, then these people are not that interested, because they're sort of blocked in. They would like to buy that whole block and start from scratch on that. But that is Mr. Pine's suggestion also. And we've been talking about that for maybe about 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Apparently the town would be eligible for about $300,000 in community assistance funds. What can you tell us about that?
I think it's getting, we have to have that in by June 1st, I believe, and, I mean, June 30th, one of those days, I forget the exact day. It's getting close, and there are many regulations that you have to adhere to when you apply for this kind of monies, and I don't think that the town can meet all the requirements that they are asking for in this area, and I think that the $300,000 that might be available to the town, I don't think we'll be able to use it, or, take advantage of it.
Why not?
For one thing, as I said, there are many of the regulations that we have to adhere to when we apply for this. There are certain things that we have to put together, have to go to the town council, and I don't feel that we have the time, nor will certain regulations that we have to adhere to that the town can follow and be a party to.
Mr. Mayor, as long as we're discussing downtown and downtown development, at yesterday's council meeting, when the discussion arose regarding the housing for the elderly, you mentioned that even if the elderly did have to drive downtown to do their shopping or go to the doctors or whatever, they'd have to find places to park. How can the town go about getting more parking spaces downtown, and do you feel that the lack of available downtown parking right now is hurting businesses downtown?
Well, according to Sam Pine's report, there is enough parking downtown right now that can take care. He said that parking is not a problem. I think the parking that I referred to was that there was not enough parking in the elderly housing complex. They were talking about the McGuire Court one in particular. And it's always been a problem up there. They don't have enough parking. Every time everyone campaigns, everybody complains about the parking, the availability of emergency equipment getting in there, and also clearing the roads during the winter of snow up there. It's always been a problem up there, and you have to go in with a front end loader to get the snow out. If you really take a look at the elderly all have cars, it seems, that are a great majority more. They complement each other by helping each other out and giving people rides when the need arises, but I don't think that I was referring to no parking downtown. I was referring there was no parking in the reason I didn't want a small area for elderly housing, that people could not park their cars in the elderly complexes. But as far as the downtown area, there is a sufficient parking right now, according to Sam Pine's report. Parking is not a problem for them.
Sue?
If we're talking about funding to really get the project off the ground, and you say the town probably could not be able to get the $300,000 because of certain regulatory constraints, what is the feasibility of funding to get the project underway?
I think you're going to have to find, like more and more towns are doing, a lot of it's got to come from private sources, along with very little help from the town. Towns are strapped right now money-wise. Taxpayers don't want increases. They want spending cut. Everyone you talk to, they tell you cut spending, cut spending. And we're trying to say that what we're trying to do is be able to do things within the realm of being able to pay for them. We can't not overtax our taxpayers in Wallingford. The downtown business has to revitalize itself, and they have to put some money into it themselves also, along with whatever monies can become available. Now, I don't think I see a great deal of town funds being available for any redevelopment downtown. I think the majority of that money has to come from private sources.
Well, I think the local merchants are not very certain about having a lot of money to be able to put toward a $3 million project. In fact, they wanted the town to pick up the tab for the holiday lights, and they're looking for that. Could this be the sort of project that a study has been done, and it may die on the drawing boards?
That I can't say right now, so I don't know whether that... You're talking about the Sam Pine study?
Yes.
No, I think it'd be a basis for people to work from in years to come. I think you'll see that it's a good study, and it's a basis, it's a planned study, and people can go in on planned stages. Maybe you can't come out with the $3 million right away, but maybe somewhere down the line you might be able to come up with a little money to do these things. But I don't think you're going to see it come overnight.
Mr. Mayor, last week the Board of Education voted to close Parker Farms Elementary School at the end of the year. By doing that, by closing the school, that leaves there another vacant town building on the books. Can the town, do you think it's possible for the town to be able to sell Parker Farms Elementary School?
I think it's going to pose a big problem for us to sell it. It's in the center of a residential area. Naturally, when someone buys a building, they want to make sure that they're able to use it. So before we can sell it, probably one of the conditions of the sale would be by the purchaser to ask that the building be rezoned for whatever type of use that he want, whether it be industrial, commercial, or whatever. Because they won't buy it and then go in for a zone change. But they really, many of the towns that have had this type of problem, that own these buildings in residential areas, that people have asked, have bought buildings and have had trouble getting the area zoned for their type of business that they use. It's in a residential area. It could pose us a problem in selling it, I think.
Sue.
I'm sorry if I may add a follow-up. I understand that the town has received several offers to purchase Yalesville Elementary School, which, from what I understand, it was either Yalesville or Parker Farms the board had discussed closing. Is that true? And if so, why do you think Yalesville will be a more saleable school?
Well, it's up to the Board of Education. I don't want to go around your question, but you have to understand that the administrators who run the school system came out with different points on why and wherefores of what schools should be closed. The Board of Education saw in its best, deemed it in their wisdom to do otherwise. They closed the Parker Farms and let the Yalesville open. There's no question about it. I feel that in my mind that the Yalesville school probably could have been more saleable or more rentable, but we are not on the Board of Education, and the Board of Education is elected by the people, and they have to make these decisions. And if they thought that that was the way to go, then that's the way they should have gone. There might have been a split vote on it, but the majority always rules, no matter what. I think if you're just asking which one would be more saleable than the other, I think that you'll find that naturally Yalesville probably would be more saleable of the two schools, because it seems to almost be in an area where you would have commercial contingent to it, almost with the commercial areas that are down further east of it.
Have there been any offers to buy Yalesville School?
The Yale School is going to remain open, so we won't discuss whether it's going to be, could be sold or rented.
Sue.
It may remain open for now. Moving to another topic, could you give us an update on the infiltration problem that's been experienced with the sewage treatment plant?
Well, it's still the same as it was the last time. We talked about it. We still have our inflow and infiltration has come in because of the high water table that we have. Naturally, we have a lot of leakage and cracks in our pipes. The inflow through our manholes, and then also in our pipes and joints and whatnot. And people using the sewer system to probably, with some pumps, to pump into it. If we could clean that out, I think we'd find that our sewage plant capacity would be increased greatly. It seems that in one area where they're doing a little project now that they expect to clear up some problems in the area, and they're going to pick up 20,000 gallons there of capacity that they can use otherwise. And I think our inflow and infiltration is our biggest problem in the town of Wallingford. And until we straighten that out, along with our sewer plant, we can clean that up. But also we have to make sure our sewer plant is upgraded, because we're mandated by law, by the state and federal government to do that. But I think that one of the biggest problems we have is our inflow and infiltration. And to me, that's more important, I think, to clean up than expanding the plant right now. I think it seems to me that there would be a great deal more capacity if you could take care of that. Hydraulically, we can handle it. There's no problem with it. But it's still the same as it was before, and I've recommended and keep recommending to the sewer and PUC that something should be done about the inflow and infiltration. But a lot of that has to be cleaned up with that 90% federal and state money that's going to run out. The formula will change in October of '84, where you go to 55-45, and we are in hopes that it's possible we might still fall under that 90%. And I think that's why the PUC and the sewer department are sort of holding back on doing the work in these areas. They feel that it'd probably be much better if they waited and see another year of it and see if they could get that the federal and state funding, and it won't cost the town as much. But if we put it off for too long, we could possibly have some problems with our sewer inflow and infiltration.
I don't believe that Wallingford should die. I think that Wallingford should continue to grow. There's no question in my mind that it's going to grow. We're getting, we're getting inquiries about this town on a daily basis, and you talk to different people. Sometimes it pans out, and sometimes it doesn't. But we got to have a good tax base, and a good tax base comes from a good industrial base. Whether people like to believe that or not, that's a good tax base. That and a commercial base. And this is what keeps our taxes down and what keeps and helps our town grow and gives us the services that the people of Wallingford enjoy and continue to want, I might add, very strongly. So that's where it stands right now.
It's my understanding that Wallingford could be grandfathered in terms of obtaining the available funding. Is that a possibility?
I think you'll find before the state legislature, there's a bill right now in there, but it went through the DEP committee, and it went through the Environment Committee, and it went through the Finance Committee, but they were talking about adding an amendment to it where that 55-45, they were going to make it 75% for advanced wastewater treatment plants instead of the 55, and grandfather the ones in that were in design stages only. In other words, if you were sited and all that, and you still were not in design stage, you would not come under that grandfather clause. But what they're trying to pass, and the latest I heard on it, that it missed both the amendment missed both the finance and environment, that they're going to bring it up on the floor, and chances are that it might stand a good chance of passing, that 75-25% will come in to be in, if we don't come in with that 90-20, 90-10 that we hope we might be able to come in with from the state and federal government. But those kinds of money run out in October of 1984.
Doug, we have time for one brief question.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, the Water and Sewer Divisions have gone through 3 office managers in the past 3 years. Earlier during their budget deliberations, the council talked about withholding funding for the position until things could be straightened out. Are you concerned about the stability of that position right now?
No. We have already had the person interviewed. He's been tested. We had the written. He's been orally tested, and he's been interviewed by department heads, and I expect to see him on board within a week or two.
Are you saying that somebody has been offered the position then?
I'm saying that 3 people have been interviewed, and I expect that someone would be on board within 2 or 3 weeks.
Are you concerned that that there have been 3 office managers in the past 3 years?
No, not really. Not really. I think problems that have arisen are being resolved, and I don't think that you're going to see anything happen. I think you'll find that things will return to normal. I have no qualms about that.
Okay, that does it for today's Focus on the Mayor program. We'd like to thank the reporters for being with us today. And I'll go in reverse order this time. It's Sue Dvorak-Levy, editor of the Wallingford Post, Doug Quat from the Record Journal. We'd like to thank the library for their fine facilities and for producing this program. Ordinarily, I would invite you to be with us again next time, but this is the last program now between now and after election. The library will have regular coverage of election events, and you should check the message wheel on this channel for that coverage. Until next time then, we'll be seeing you. Thanks for watching.